Following video is brought to you by the Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please consider liking and subscribing for more Boston sports content.
I got the Boston Celtics going to the final. I got them winning without.
It's time to represent your city. Put your hands up. Cali, you know we do it for Boston. Hey, ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah, hey, can't nobody do it like Boston. Where the legends get made, where the banners get raised, bright lights, big stage. Boston. All the fire we bring in a city full of rings, it's a beautiful thing out in Boston. And you ain't hard like that, you don't put it on the line with your squad like that. That's right, Boston. All we do is win like cigars in the gym, and we at it again. I say, Beantown, what's up? What's up? 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 Feel the energy shift, now we jumping at the gym. Represent, showing out how we ball above the rim. Larry Legend, 86, to the truth in 08. Cement your name with the all-time greats. Still banner 18 in the Raptors. Celtic green, only green that matters. It's about that time. Ain't another city that's louder than mine. Always gonna shine with the game on the line. What you think was gonna happen, man? That's how we do it in Boston. Ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah. Ain't nobody do it like Boston.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Dynasty Proud podcast brought to you by BSEN. As always, Ryan at 19_loading. We've got our guy Cam Manning with us. We're going to get into what was just a brutal collapse of a loss last night for the Celtics against the New York Knicks in game one at home. They held a 20-point lead at one point and choked it away, went to overtime, ultimately lost, and we'll get into all the reasons for that. But Cam, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to see that I'm like teetering between co-host of the podcast and being in BSEN purgatory because I went to the Celtics game last night. Me being the good son that I am, I want to take my mom for an early Mother's Day gift, my first Celtics playoff game of my life. And coincidentally, she took me to my first ever Celtics game ever, like in person. And it's that one too. So maybe it's time to stop taking my mom to Celtics games and bring someone else. But the game last night was electric. Absolutely loved it. Not the result that we wanted, but not necessarily hitting the panic button yet, as we'll get into in a little bit. First instant reaction is more of a Celtics loss than a Knicks win. And granted, the Knicks played very well. They made shots when they had to. Jalen Brunson is as advertised in the fourth quarter and in clutch situations. OG Anunoby popped off, which we'll also get into. But my first initial thought from the game, and it's not really rocket science. A lot of Celtics fans know this watching the game, that it was more self-inflicted than anything else. It wasn't because of what the Knicks did well. It's because of what the Celtics didn't do well, which was shoot efficiently. And when you take 63s and only make 15 of them, that's usually the result you're going to get. And the fact that they only lost by 3, forced the game to overtime, says that 2 or 3 threes go in and it's a completely different outcome. They hit layups. There were a couple. I know Dan Greenberg, I love following him on Twitter. He posted a bunch of screenshots of wide open threes and layups that the Celtics botched and missed. So those plays do matter. They end up costing you in the final result. You got to make the freebies. You got to make the layups. You got to make the free throws. Like, those things matter. The details matter. So I think that good win for the Knicks. I'll give them their flowers. They played well. Good defensive game plan. Played their hearts out. But I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet, is my long-winded explanation of how I am doing, Ryan. I'm doing very well. Happy to be on the pod again. But let's dive deep into this game one, shall we?
Yeah, you mentioned the layups. That's what stood out to me, honestly, because I can't tell you the number of times I watched Tatum or whoever get into the lane, throw up a floater or a runner that, like, I would say they make 8 or 9 times out of 10. And if they took 10 of those last night, which I'm not sure they possibly could have because all they took was threes, but if they did take 10 of those last night, I don't think they made a single one. Like, not that I can remember. That was rough. It was really rough to watch.
And I think when I saw, so we can get into this a little bit as well, but Porzingis and Cornette had I vividly remember watching the game and seeing Porzingis drive the lane with minimal traffic in the paint. And at 7'3", he does not have to jump that high. His head is basically already touching the rim. And he did not finish at the rim. Cornette, same thing. He's 7'3". You got to make those shots. Like, you just have to as an NBA player. And I'm not trying to sit here and bash Porzingis because obviously he's been dealing with the illness. He didn't play the second half, which for someone being at the game, I probably should have noticed that he wasn't starting on the floor to start the second half, but a fan had to point that out to me that he didn't see Porzingis on the bench or on the floor. And I was like, why is Luke Cornette starting the second half? Because I did see KP shoot some balls during the second half between first half, second half, and the shoot around. And I was wondering why he wasn't out there for the second half, but obviously Celtics posted non-COVID illness. Kind of wondering if it's that thing he dealt with for a long stretch of time during the regular season that's kind of been lingering a little bit and kind of makes me wonder how effective he will actually be going down the stretch, which could not maybe impact this series, but maybe the Eastern Conference Finals if the Celtics get there, NBA championship, most definitely. But, we'll get into that a little later. But overall thoughts, I think you got to make the easy ones, right? And it showed in the box score. They lost by 3. You make 1 or 2 of those layups. You hit 1 or 2 more of those wide open 3-pointers, which we'll discuss as well. And you're talking about a completely different outcome.
Well, just one additional shot and you win in regulation, in theory. There's a butterfly effect thing that you can't, you can't guarantee that's going to happen. But
from a pure analytical standpoint, if you make 2
you
shots,
make one more shot, it's over in regulation.
Right. Yeah. So, right.
The Porzingis thing, I had a similar experience, which is funny because I'm glad you said that because I'm glad I'm not the only one that had a thought like that. Because I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't notice it either. And I was out at my Monday night bowling league, which I'm a part of. Which
stud. Look at that.
Great time.
Love that.
And they had the game on in there, but of course we were at one of the lanes where the TV's broken. So I had pulled up on my phone. So I'm like watching the game.
Yeah.
Then it's my turn and I got to go. And I'm like, I got to focus. We're trying to win. Like it was a whole thing. But
you do competitive. You do competitive stuff. You're not just there for shits and giggles. You're just there.
No. This is for real. This was the last week of the season last night, so we don't have to talk about my bowling league. This is not a bowling podcast.
Okay, yeah, not the point.
But anyway, I'm sitting there, and my buddy's sitting next to me, and he's watching the game on my phone because I have it propped up on the table, and he's like, "Where's Porzingis?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
Hard to miss a 7'3" lobster guy on the floor. Hard to miss him. Miss him, but I somehow did.
And I had basically the same thing happen. I'm like, I didn't even notice it until my friend brought it up, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. They probably could use him right about now. So, just talking about the game generally, my instant reaction is, for some reason, my inclination is always to just dig into the numbers, and I feel like it gives me a way kind of to think about how the game would be perceived in 10 years when nobody remembers the plays that actually happened. People are just going to look at the box score. Like that's how people would remember this game because they wouldn't be able to remember it off the top of their heads. The story of the game really is the Celtics just refusing to shoot 2-point shots in the second half. And they just could not buy a bucket from 3. And every shot they took virtually was a 3. And I think they took 7 2-point shots in the second half. Which is
19 of their 20 shot attempts in the third quarter, Ryan, were 3-point shots. 19 of 20. 1 2-point field goal attempt in the third quarter. And being at the game, I notice the chirping from Celtics fans, like, stop hucking up threes, drive it to the basket, which, in retrospect, the Celtics' MO all year, as we've talked about before on this podcast, has been 3-point shooting. They got guys all over the place that can hit threes. Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Jason Tatum, all top 3 in 3-pointers made, set Celtics single-season records previously held by Isaiah Thomas in 2017. They knocked down a lot of shots. They knocked down a lot of threes. But when you're a championship team, you need to find different ways to win, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't buy a basket. Drew Holiday couldn't hit. Like the Celtics on wide open 3-point attempts, 7 for 24. Ridiculously low percentage. Like wide open shots, I think, is defined as a defender 5 or 6 feet, nearest closest defender 5 or 6 feet away. Like no contest. They shot 7 for 24 on wide open shots. They were getting open looks. They just weren't falling.
Yeah. And the 2-point shots they did take, it was a lot of ISO ball. Like it just, there was a lot of just kind of dribble. Okay, now what? And
yeah, it was panic mode late in the shot clock, pretty much.
It strikes me as almost being like the way Orlando defended them in terms of being so tough at the 3-point line and running them off the line. Like they get into this series against the Knicks and they're like, oh, they're letting us shoot these? Are we allowed to do that? And like, it's like they forgot how to play against a team that doesn't run you off the line as well as Orlando does. Right. And, they obviously felt like they were open and felt like they had to take these shots. And that's fine to an extent, but sometimes they just felt so forced. And a lot of them were pretty contested. And I felt like if they just moved the ball a little bit better, they would have gotten better looks. I'm not opposed to them shooting 3-point shots. It was some of the threes that they took, I thought were just like way too early in the shot clock. Way too early in the shot clock, like over a guy. Like I don't see a reason for that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And another thing too that I noticed is that being at the game, Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns both entered the third quarter with, I believe, 3 fouls. And if I'm the Celtics, I'm hunting that Jalen Brunson mismatch all day long. As great of an offensive player as he is, as great of a clutch offensive player he is, he's limited with his size. So attack the matchup, draw the double, and swing it. Like you said, you got to get more touches to these guys. Only, I believe, 18 assists for the Celtics. And they have this crazy stat where if they get 24, 25 or more assists, they have like an absurd winning percentage. Like they move the ball so well. But for some reason, and this is also a little bit of a credit to the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau, who's a great defensive coach, they were clogging up passing lanes. And to your point, I think the Celtics settled for a lot of shots. Jaylen Brown also highlighted that in the post-game comments. But doesn't excuse the fact that, listen, I love when Jason Tatum hunts the mismatch, the big man mismatch, especially against Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns, who are no defensive anchors by any means. But take it to the rim. Draw contact. Go to the line. Even if you don't hit the shot, you're still going to get a good chance of going to the free throw line, and you're putting more pressure on Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson to kind of play like the Knicks are going to try to hide them more on the defensive end because they need those guys' offensive production. And they were in foul trouble entering the third quarter. I was just so confused as to why. You look at the shot charts, right? I know I'm going on a rapid tangent, but if you look on the shot charts on NBA.com, you see a lot of the Celtics makes when they were building that 20-point lead. They had a good mix, a good balance of paint scoring and 3-point attempts. And then in the second half, I don't know if it's Joe Mazzulla just overlooking too much into the analytics, sort of like, okay, we have this game. Let's try to blow the doors off them in game one and break it open. But it kind of did the opposite. It let them back into the game. The Celtics, to your point, were settling for 3-pointer attempts in the second half, and it came back and bit them. And New York stole game one. So, I don't know. To me, just looking at that, I feel as though the Celtics needed to stick to the first half game plan instead of overcomplicating things and start playing Hail Mary, huck the 3-pointers. It just didn't really have a recipe for success, and New York capitalized it to their credit.
And the fourth quarter and overtime in particular, for Jason Tatum, it was horrendous.
Yeah, it was not great.
I don't have the tweet in front of me, but I remember seeing a tweet that had his stats in the fourth quarter and overtime. He was like 1 of 9 from the floor, 4 points or something like that in the fourth quarter and 5 minutes of overtime. And the fact of the matter is that that's not going to cut it. it wasn't like he wasn't getting good looks he doesn't normally make. I mean, he was taking shots that I was like, oh yeah, he can make that, but not tonight. As we've said, they just couldn't buy a bucket, and that just can't happen for this team to be successful. Because if it's happening to Tatum, it seems like sometimes it gets contagious, and no one else could do anything either. It was like they all saw how poorly it was going, and they were just like letting it get in their heads. That's how it felt. Because it felt like they were all trying to be the hero, and they're like, okay, well, everybody else is having a bad night, so let me see what I can do. And Derek White hit that one big three toward the end of regulation, and that was huge, but it just felt like it wasn't enough.
They were scrapping and clawing for the majority of the second half, and when the Knicks kind of went on that run, kind of snowballed, avalanche effect, the pressure got to them. And it was uncharacteristic of the Celtics team, if I'm being completely honest, not executing down the stretch. And again, giving credit to New York, Jalen Brunson, to the point that I made off the top. 3 for 3 on three-pointers, 11 points out of his 29 in the fourth quarter. He was so clutch on the offensive side of the ball. OG Anunoby obviously had a big game, 29 points. I don't really expect OG Anunoby. This is no disrespect to OG as a player. Great two-way player. But that game one was an outlier. They needed his production to steal that game. And I don't expect him to go for that type of production for the majority of the series. I just don't see it happening. Leading up to this game, in 25 games in his career, this is according to StatMuse, he averaged only less than 9 points against the Celtics in his career leading up to this playoff game. So maybe it was an outlier. Maybe it was the classic, Dylan Brooks hits 10 3-pointers against the Celtics in the regular season. He's never hit more than 5 in his career type game. Like, that's the thing with being a championship team, Ryan. We've highlighted it before. You get every team's best effort, you know? You get every team's best effort, and it's iron sharpens iron type deal. That's why I'm not overly concerned hitting the panic button quite yet. But I'm really hoping that Joe Mazzulla takes a look at the game film and says, okay, we saw what worked in the first half to build that 20-point lead. Why did we shy away from this? Why do we stop being aggressive? Why were we being so 3-point happy? Because, again, it seemed like the Celtics were in cruise control in the first half. They built that giant run. The Knicks were dead in the water, couldn't get anything going offensively, and it just seemed to just tale of two halves sort of thing, kind of like the inverse of the Magic series, where Orlando kept it close in the first half and the Celtics ran away with it. The Celtics just faltered and kind of let it slip away, which is very uncharacteristic of them. So, you know, I'm expecting an aggressive Jason Tatum in game 2. I'm expecting just hunting mismatches and doing what the Celtics usually do so well, which got them to this point. But I don't know. I've got some cause for concern with Mazzulla's comments after the game. He said to a post-game reporter, Bobby Manning on Twitter, who's great for CLNS Media, he said that if the shots fell, they were getting great looks. If the shots fell, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but they didn't. So here we are. Which, to me...
yeah, but
technically, that's true. But to your point, when you're looking at the box score and the NBA being so analytics driven, you look at it and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I get like the 3 is more than 2 mindset, but you need to have more diversity in your offense. Like, I get the whole Mazzulla ball, it works, he's winning and stuff, it's working. But there comes a point where if the shots aren't falling, you think to get in the huddle during a timeout and say, hey guys, let's like switch it up a little bit. You know, we're getting a little 3-point happy. Let's mix in a couple twos, drive, get some paint touches. And even the paint touches lead to more wide open looks for 3. If you get 2 points in the paint, Jaylen Brown's one of the best at doing that. 2 feet in the paint, kick it out. It just wasn't happening. I'm scared that Joe Mazzulla's fallen a little too much in love with the analytics and stuff, but I really hope he proves me wrong and the Celtics come out flying in game 2 tomorrow night. So hopefully he proves me wrong.
I mean, I think we spend a lot of time talking about this after Celtics losses. Like, it's really easy for us to get bogged down in the analytics and focus on that.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
feel like it's mostly the players, honestly. I think there's a directive that comes down from the coaching and from the front office and just the general philosophy of the team. Yes, we want to shoot a lot of 3-pointers, but I think in the flow of the game, guys kind of do it on their own. And I don't know how much control. I mean, as a basketball coach, you don't have control of what shots guys are going to take, like in a given possession when the ball's live. So it's, I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I also think that if they go out and shoot, they hit like 45,
They shoot 40,
50% of their
45%. We're
of
not
their
talking
threes.
about this.
Right.
We're not talking about this later on in the podcast. We're gonna be like,
it's a
"Oh,
moot
Joe
point.
Mazzulla's the best. Oh,
Yeah.
great philosophy.
Yeah.
Blew the doors off the Knicks in game 2." I mean, it's that classic double standard, Like, we got to keep the team accountable for when they lose and don't make shots. And I don't know. I feel like I feed into this media trend where everyone's so, I mean, like, I'm dating myself. I'm only 24, 25 years old, so it's really all I've known. But these people on Twitter that are so, oh, the game's changed so much, which it definitely has. The 3-point volume numbers say so. But in terms of analytic driven, like, you want someone, that perfect mesh of like, okay, former player knows what it's like to be a player instead of just a nerd, but you also don't want to just go purely off emotion and instinct and that sort of thing. It's kind of this give and take with today's game. It's like you want a balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think the perfect example would be if you want to look down at the Houston Rockets and Ime Udoka, like that's a guy who's all about hustle and heart and defense, and well, they're sitting at home. So, and Golden State has a better balance of that. They obviously have Steph Curry, who's like
big difference. Yeah,
that helps. But
yes, for sure.
You get what I'm saying, just in terms of a philosophy.
Yes,
and
sure.
they're just a really young team, so there's a lot of other factors that go into that too. But you mentioned Anunoby earlier too. As you said, I really don't expect to see that out of him again. That was a career high for him in the playoffs. He had never had that many points before. I think he had a game where he had 28 before that. He had never had 29. His career high in the regular season is 40. That was also this year. So he's having a better year scoring the ball with the Knicks than he has in the past. But no, I don't see that happening again. And then another thing I don't see happening again would be Tatum and Brown being a combined 14 of 43 from the floor and 5 of 25 from 3. Because the thing with those two guys is it's not uncommon for one of them to have a bad night. It's really uncommon for both of them to have a bad night. Sure. And they both had a bad night last night. Usually one of them can pick up the other slack, and that just wasn't the case last night. So unfortunately, obviously led to the L. So what kind of adjustments do you think they could have made last night that might have changed the outcome, and potentially what adjustments might they need to make for tomorrow night?
Yeah, I don't really think it's too much of a rocket science answer here, Ryan. I think it's more paint touches and attacking the mismatch. And, we talk about the assist numbers. Like, obviously the potential assists were really high because they missed so many shots. And if guys aren't making shots, it's impossible to get assists because you need the shot to go through for it to be counted as an assist. That's just how the NBA works. It's how stats work. No, I don't need to tell anyone that on this podcast. But the ball movement, to your point, it was very stagnant ISO ball in game 1, trying to be the hero, kind of ripple effect where, okay, I want to be the hero. I want to be the reason we steal this game 1 dub sort of thing. A lot of ISO ball, a lot of hero ball. But I think to your point earlier is this, if we just move the ball and not start the possession at 10 seconds on the shot clock and get into our actions a little quicker and maybe capitalize more in transition, I feel as though that the Celtics can easily outmatch the Knicks. I'm not a New York Knicks reporter or anything, or know Tibbs's rotations or anything, but I found it really comical that the Celtics pulled a Golden State and tried to do the hack.
I was going to bring this up. I'm glad you're bringing this up because I had this in my notes too.
Because the Warriors did this with Steven Adams in game 6. And it proved ineffective because Steven Adams actually made a good chunk of his free throws, even though he's a porous, like really bad career free throw shooter. But oh my goodness, Mitchell Robinson, 3 for 10 from the free throw line. Dude couldn't buy a basket from the free throw line. And poor Knicks fan, and I shouldn't say poor Knicks fans because I'm a Celtics fan, but look, like 2 Knicks fans were sitting next to me and my mom, and they were like, $20, he goes 1 for 2. $20, he goes 0 for 2. And they would have taken that ticket to Encore, dude. They would have taken that casino ticket because he just kept missing, bricking. He was building a new building in Boston with how many bricks he was throwing up at the free throw line. And the funniest thing is that I saw him at the free throw line during shoot around between the first and second half. Brick central. Dude just can't buy a basket from the free throw line. But all comedic remarks aside, that is like, I'm not sure how Tibbs adjusts to that because, it's not really a terrible strategy because you limit the Knicks' offensive possessions. You hack a Robinson, bank on him being like, he's not a good free throw shooter. I mean, I'm not sure how you feel about that kind of dynamic of cheating out a defensive possession by just hacking the worst free throw shooter. Not really sure what your thought process is on that, but it proved effective in the first half.
Well, my thought on it is this. I think it's case by case. And in this particular case, Robinson's not a threat on offense anyway. So it's already like you're playing 5-on-4 on that end of the floor. So he's basically already out of the game. And if you keep doing that, Tibbs is just going to sit him down. So what does that really accomplish for you would be my question. Like,
no, that's
I
fair.
get what you're saying in that the Knicks lose a possession and they have to deal with not really getting to do what they want to do, get into their action, get into a rhythm, all that stuff. But also the Pistons are the ones that came up with this and they lost. So I'm going to throw it out right then and there. Like, I don't think it works. So
yeah, but do you think from an analytical perspective, and this is not me trying to do deep dive into the numbers, every possession in the playoffs is huge. And say you foul Mitchell Robinson 4 seconds into the shot clock, 5 seconds into the shot clock. Do you think cumulatively over time, if you're doing that multiple possessions, does that buy a team like the Celtics who don't really go early in the action in their shot clock and get a lot of possessions throughout the game because they're very much half-court offense, look for a great shot? Do you think that kind of impact sways anything, or do you, again, not really see the point in doing it? It's kind of meaningless.
I think if you were going to send Jordan Walsh out there to hack him 6 times and then go sit down, fine. But you'd also, if you're doing it with your starters and your key rotation players, you're racking up fouls and risking them getting in foul trouble in late situations in the game too. So I don't like it.
That's also true. All right, that's fair.
I don't like it a bit.
No, that's so fair. I mean, so I thought it was more of a comedic thing for me watching it last night. Because
yes. Watching him shoot free throws is uncomfortable. He looks it's a struggle for him. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so before we go on to a next point, I really want to bring up a story from last night's game. So my seats were killer. Like, I did not expect to be as close as I was to the floor. Like, I felt out of place being there. It was really like dream come true as a lifelong Celtics fan to sit that close to the action in a playoff game. I looked to my left though, and I'm like dead center in the row. I'm 12 rows from the floor. I'm in the middle of the row. I look to my left, and not in my row directly, but if you go to the end of my row and then the guardrail or whatever, and then the aisle seat is none other than Knicks legend, Cambridge, Mass native, Georgetown legend, Patrick Ewing, watching the game. And I'm like, that is the most random thing I've ever... This dude is ginormous. Why is he sitting in the lower bowl section? Why is he not courtside? Why is he not behind the Knicks bench? Did someone screw that up? Did his secretary, did the planner mess it up? Because Patrick Ewing is sitting literally less than 25 feet away from me. And I'm just like, This dude looks so uncomfortable sitting in that seat. Like his legs are like draped out into the aisle because he's just such a massive human being. And I was like, there's a lot of security around that one portion of the section. And then I look over and it's freaking Patrick Ewing. I'm like, damn, dude, that's so cool. Like I never get to see a star up close like that. That was really cool for me. That was like a little side tangent, a little side story from last night. It was cool.
It was fantastic.
Cool. No, it was really cool.
I don't live up there anymore, so I haven't been in a while, but I know that it's a common complaint that the seating legroom is already not great
Very
for
tight.
normal sized people. So I can't imagine what it would be like. I mean, I'm trying to picture him like on a plane too.
Oof.
Like
he's gotta be first class, first row.
I'm 5'9", so like I'm all good. I don't have to worry about that. I'm okay. But
yeah.
Anybody over about 5'11", 6 feet, you're starting to have problems. So
yeah,
I don't envy that.
No,
I thought that's fine.
Oh, yeah, it was really funny. Sorry to sidetrack from the conversation.
Please.
We were talking about Hacker Robinson. It was really funny. And you just see the groan and disgust on Patrick Ewing's face watching Mitchell Robinson go to the free throw line. It was tremendous.
That's beautiful.
So good. Such a good vibe. But Ryan, so you asked me the potential game 2 adjustments. Do you have any notes from watching the game? What adjustments would you make going into game 2? Is it like simple 2-point shots, more 2-point volume? What were your eyes telling you for game 2?
For me, it's less about what they need to do in game 2 and what I think they should have done in game 1.
Gotcha.
They held the Knicks to 108 points in an overtime loss. So with an extra 5 minutes of basketball, they still only had 108 points. Defense was not the problem at all. And the offense is going to be better. So the thing that I think I would have done in the flow of this game last night, which I'm going to sound insane with this, and, feel free to stop me if you think I'm being completely ridiculous. But
we live for crazy takes on this podcast, so please go right ahead.
This is the type of game that when I look back on it, like I would have made adjustments in terms of the rotations and some of the guys that I brought off the bench, because you look at Sam Hauser, who obviously only played 4 minutes in this game, and now like I'm looking at the end of the bench and I see Baylor Shireman sitting there. And
we talked about this. Give my boy Baylor some minutes.
I get it. He's a rookie, late first round guy from Creighton. Like he's probably not going to be the answer to all of your problems, but he can shoot, he can defend, and he can handle the ball just fine. And if I'm Joe and I'm standing there watching shots clanging off the rim for like an hour straight, don't you have to try something new? Like, don't you just throw Shireman out there for 2 minutes at the beginning of the fourth and say, go get a corner 3 for us, please? Like, where was that?
The co-host of the podcast is not an NBA coach. But I see the vision, Ryan. I see the vision. Listen, Sam Hauser, with all due respect, tremendous 3-point shooter. I think I made a comparison to Kyle Korver for him at an earlier podcast episode. But I think the ceiling's higher for Baylor Shireman. And I think any Celtics fan that's watching these games can agree with me that Baylor Shireman has more of a drive and kick game than Sam Hauser. I mean, how many 2-point attempts does Sam Hauser usually take in a course of a game? No, it's all 3 ball and
but
off
when he
catch
does
and shoot.
When he does not miss. I don't remember the last time Sam Hauser missed a 2-point shot. I've never seen it.
I mean, doesn't that mean you should take more of them then? If he never misses, if he has high efficiency, should be taking more?
But if you take more of them, aren't you more likely to miss one?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my. Then why are we shooting balls anyways? Why are we playing basketball? Then? You know what? You're making a great point. Analytics, that's right. You can't miss a shot if you don't take one. That's a great mindset. But to your original point, Baylor Shireman, I agree with you. Why not throw him in? Like, it's not like you're getting the doors blown off. Put him in for a spark plug, even for 2 minutes. 2-minute stretch. Give him an offensive possession, give him a defensive possession, and see if he can spark something in the team.
Because who knows? Maybe he hits one and just gets the guys going. That would have been
what I'm saying.
That would have been
That's
my
what I'm saying.
mindset. And you know he's going to go in there like balls to the wall, like trying to like really get after it, because it would be. I think he got a couple minutes in the Orlando series, but he didn't get any meaningful time. So
Yeah, those were garbage time minutes, I think. At the end, it was the end of game 2 when we were up big.
I don't remember specifically when it was, but I know he got in there at some point. But so it wouldn't even be his first time playing in the playoffs. Like I would have entertained it. I don't know. That was the one thing that I would have done. And hopefully you do get Porzingis back. And as you sent to me right before we started, it sounds like he's probable. So that means he's.
That's good news. That's good news.
And I don't know what the percentages are on that in terms of how likely they are to actually play, but I'm sure they have clearly defined rules on that behind the scenes, but we don't really know what they are. But he's likely going to play. And when he played in the first half, they won by 16. And I know he only played 13 minutes, but he himself was only he was a neutral plus minus. He was exactly 0 last night. But when he's on the floor,
either, I think. I don't think he hit a shot either last night. I think he was 0 for.
But even the threat of him hitting shots is enough to make the Knicks have to defend the Celtics differently with him on the floor.
Right.
It just changes everything about how they have to approach it. So that's the good news. The silver lining, I think I would say, is that ideally you're going to get better performances out of either one of Tatum or Brown, if not both, and you get Porzingis back, and you still only lost that game in overtime and only gave up 108 points. So like there are positives to take away. And I saw Noah Dalzell tweet this out last night. She was like, there's a lot of positive things that you can take out from this game. Like, I feel like there's so many good things to take from this. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Like in the moment, I was like, I don't know if I can agree with that. I felt pretty terrible about it. But when you think about it, like I see what she was getting at, just in terms of like, it was not a blowout loss, and it took a historically bad shooting night to lose in overtime. And it's kind of similar.
Career game. And right. OGN would be career game to even force overtime and win by 3. It's like, I'm not sure if you're a Marvel person, but when it was Endgame, Iron Man attacking Thor, not Thor, I'm sorry, Jesus. Thanos, at the end, he just gets the scratch, and he's like, just a drop of blood sort of thing. Like, the Knicks had to throw the kitchen sink at the Celtics just to even steal game 1 by 3 points in overtime, right. To your point.
Right. And I think we saw a similar thing happen in the Orlando series when Orlando did take one game. I think the Knicks are significantly better than Orlando, but it took a similar thing for Orlando to get a game in that series. And it ultimately ended up being the gentleman's sweep, and it was all over. And here we are. We didn't get to do a show before this series. So just for the record, I want to throw out there, I already did previously predict Celtics in 6 before the series started, and I would stick with that now. And for that to be the case, there had to be a loss in there somewhere. I didn't think that the Celtics were going to absolutely wipe the floor with the Knicks like a lot of people did. Like, I think there's a lot of people that are a little bit overconfident about, well, not even necessarily overconfident. It's not anything against the Celtics. I think people talk about the Knicks like they just completely suck, and they don't. And I think people need to get that in their heads. Like, they're a real team. They're much better than Orlando. So this is going to be more of a fight than people probably want it to be. That's just where I'm coming from on that.
Yeah, no, I think another underrated part of the Knicks game yesterday, the Knicks Celtics game, was the point production for McBride. He had 11 points off the bench, which is really huge for a Knicks team that doesn't really have too much depth. They kind of rely heavily on their starting 5 to drive their offense, and everyone's making memes about Tibbs playing Josh Hart 40 minutes. Freaking Mikal Bridges played 50 minutes. Like, he doesn't really go too deep in his rotations. It's kind of, I was shocked to see Precious Achiuwa in the game yesterday. I was like, He still plays for this team? It was so crazy to me. And I was talking with the guys in front of me. It's like, man, like Mitchell Robinson's getting hacked every possession. Like Tibbs, this is why I brought it up, because if Tibbs notices that, and to your point, Ryan, Mitchell Robinson isn't really a factor on offense anyways, why would you even play him to begin with? Why not just stick with Precious Achiuwa, who at least has a little bit of an outside game and is not a porous free throw shooter. So he's not the odd man out. And I think, listen, I don't watch a lot of New York Knicks basketball outside of this playoff series, but Precious Achiuwa kind of gives me the same intangibles as Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson may be a better defender than Achiuwa, but interior-wise, I think Precious is obviously a better perimeter defender just because of, like, just for the fact that he's less tall, has more mobility in that sense. But again, I'm not really in the know with Tom Thibodeau and his rotations, but I really don't see Mitchell Robinson getting much run in this series unless the team's getting absolutely outmuscled on the glass. So, again, I think McBride had a great game yesterday and really had point production from the bench, which the Knicks don't really get a lot of because, like I said earlier, they really rely on their starting five to carry the offense and defense. So they play heavy minutes. So, again, I agree with you that in my sense, it says water will find its level. It's not really time to hit the panic button yet. I feel confident about your prediction, Celtics in 6. I echo the same vein. I would say Celtics in 6, but again, I think people are really underestimating this Knicks team. They are a very scrappy team, and Tibbs always has them ready to play. So, again, not really sure the discourse with the NBA world and the Knicks. They kind of been like a laughingstock just because of the history and losing to the Pacers in Game 7 last year on the Garden floor. So they've been kind of been a laughingstock for a long time, but Jalen Brunson, again, legit stud, key contributor in the clutch. OG Anunoby's nothing to scoff at. Mikal Bridges played really well, had his moments, made the plays when he needed to. He wasn't great. I mean, if you're talking to me now on May 6th at 7-12, I would not have given up 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. But, that's a topic for another podcast. That's a topic for another pod.
I don't think I ever would have done that. Like,
nope.
Even in the moment, I'm like, I'm sorry, y'all traded what for Mikal Bridges?
For who?
Like, what?
Ryan, you're not understanding it. It was the power of friendship. It was the Nova boys, It was Dante DiVincenzo.
But then Dante
Hart,
was
it was
like,
Jalen Brunson.
Oh,
yeah.
guys, I'm out. Like,
yeah, no. Oh, my God. It didn't make sense to me at the time. That trade for Mikal Bridges, like, I'm not disrespecting Mikal Bridges as a player. He's a great 3-and-D guy. But you give up 5 firsts, unprotected firsts, for guys like Giannis, for guys like Steph, if he was available for trade, like the upper echelon of NBA stars. And Mikal Bridges is not that. I'm sorry.
No.
He's a good player. I'm not trying to disrespect him anyway, but he's not of the tier of a player that deserves 5 first-round picks traded for him. But I'm not in the front office either. That's why I'm not a GM. I'm a co-host with you on this podcast. That's why I don't make the big decisions in the Knicks front office. Not my battle to fight, but that's just my 2 cents. So,
well, and if you want to look back at last year at all, which you kind of mentioned before, it leads me to a lingering thought that I've had about this series that it was kind of lurking in the background. And then now that they lost Game 1, I think it definitely solidifies my opinion on this. The Celtics absolutely cannot lose this series. And it's for a very specific reason that I haven't seen talked about very much. And maybe I'm just not seeing it. But the Celtics obviously won the championship last year without having to face the Knicks because they lost half their team to injury and ended up losing in Game 7 to the Pacers, like you just said. If a healthy Knicks team now beats the Celtics after the Celtics brought everybody back, it just feeds into the idea that they might not have won last year if the Knicks and other teams that they faced in the Eastern Conference didn't have so many injuries. And just to be clear, like I still think and have always thought that the Celtics would have still beaten the Knicks last year anyway. And I still think they would have won the whole thing. I've been consistent on that, but they were just that good last year, and they're just slightly less than that this year, but obviously still championship caliber. So I don't know. I just think I don't want to see fuel given to that fire where people are like, fake championship.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always of the idea that you cannot predict injury. You only play the teams that are in front of you. They really don't have a choice in who they play or who's available when they play them. So I get what you're saying, how like it will fuel a narrative saying that Celtics team last year was more of a Mickey Mouse team than people thought. But we're not jumping there yet, Ryan. We're not hitting the panic button. We're calm, cool, and collective right now. And again, I'm backing you on your series prediction. I'm Celtics in 6. I'm backing you on that. I think, again, I'll keep banging this point until my hand goes numb. Water will find its level. Again, we're not expecting Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to shoot as poorly as both of them did combined, because you made a great point earlier about how it's uncommon for them to both have off nights. Usually one has an off night and the other one carries the load when the other one has an off night. Very rare do we see both of them have an off night. And if I'm just being completely honest, no one was really like shooting the lights out from the field in this game. I know Derek White shot 5 from 15 from deep. Peyton Pritchard was probably their most efficient player. He played very well down the stretch. And Sam Hauser, short minutes, didn't hit a shot. Porzingis was obviously limited because of the illness he got in dealing with that. So, again, the guys that are usually the trio of guards that usually play really well didn't really shoot the lights out either. So I think collectively as a team, they just didn't have it yesterday. They just didn't have it. And sometimes you run into that. But, I think to your point, though, you got to win tomorrow. You can't you can't go down 2-0 heading to Madison Square Garden, because the Knicks will have all the juice and all the momentum riding into that. Now you got to win on the road, and which they've done all year. I'll give them credit to that. They had a great road record this past year, but definitely not an ideal situation going down 2-0 heading to Madison Square Garden. So got to win tomorrow.
Yeah, and you're obviously not going to get a team in the second round to just roll over and walk off the floor and not want to be there. Like there's no, the Grizzlies are gone, right? Like those caliber of teams are gone. So
Miami Heat are gone.
You're gonna have to fight more for it now than you're going to have to in round one, and that's normal. Speaking of which, the Cavaliers dropped game 1 to the Pacers. And I know we're, a Celtics-based podcast, but we've been talking a lot about the Cavs. You and I have, at least. And tonight, right before we hopped on the show, there was a tweet from Shams that Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and who else was out for the Cavs?
DeAndre Hunter.
And Hunter, too. That's right. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out, because if they're down 0-2, that would be very interesting, because now,
speaking of fueling narratives, you're going to fuel Ryan's narrative of how the Cleveland Cavaliers are frauds. That's how we're going to fuel that narrative. Asterisk regular season.
Never said
that. I'm putting words into Ryan's mouth.
But I appreciate that. I just, and they didn't have Garland in game 1 either. So like, it's not like you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt too. But anyway, anything else you wanted to hit on before we jump off?
No, I got to see if Spida can lead a tied series in this game right now. It just tipped off a couple of minutes ago.
Cavs are up right now. It's 11-9.
Long game to go. A lot of game left. But no, I think it's a good jumping off point for game 2 tomorrow. Expect the Garden to be raucous as it was in game 1, and expect a more well-balanced effort from the Celtics. I like them in game 2. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, because we never guarantee anything on this podcast, but I like our odds. Here.
I do too. And I think we covered it all. And obviously we thank you all for listening. And hopefully the next time we talk, it'll be with the series lead. Game 2 will be tomorrow night in Boston, and then games 3 and 4 in New York on Saturday and Monday, respectively. And I guess technically, since the Celtics haven't won a game yet, we have to say, if necessary, game 5 would be back in Boston next Wednesday. But I fully expect that it will be necessary. So, just want to be clear about that. But anyway, I think, like I said, we covered everything we wanted to talk about. So for Cam and myself, we will catch you next time.
Ends tonight here. It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions.